Where'd you go?
Went down to Malibu.
Oh, did you see Jim?
Yeah, I did. He said hi.
Great. So, see you at the staff meeting.
See you at staff meeting.
Yeah, bye.
See you guys. Hey, Teresa. You miss me?
Hi, Tom. How was your vacation?
Been better if you were there. So what's going on? I leave for 3 weeks and Rick gets a new office. Where is he?
He's not here anymore.
What do you mean?
He doesn't work here anymore. He got fired.
What? Are you kidding me?
No, he's been gone for a week.
So what'd you think about Fred's boring presentation?
Oh, don't get me started on that man.
Hey, welcome back.
Teresa just told me that Rick was fired. Why? Sexual harassment. What?
Come on, Tom. Don't be that surprised. Everyone knew how he treated Michelle.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Rick is our top sales rep. So he's attracted to someone he works with, he asks her out a few times, and they fire him for that? That's not harassment, that's just men and women, the facts of life.
Sexual harassment. It may have been seen as a fact of life in the past, but the fact is things have changed. Today, the issues and consequences surrounding sexual harassment are forcing businesses and institutions across the country to wake up to this very real problem.
The legal definition of sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances, verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature, or request for sexual favors, when those are made a term and condition of employment, or when a decision regarding employment is dependent upon the victim's answers, or when it creates a hostile working environment.
Where there is some kind of conduct that is unwelcome or offensive to the person, that is directed at that person because of their sex, that it is so severe or pervasive in the environment that it actually changes the terms or conditions of their employment, and that the employer should be held liable for that conduct, and that last standard will change depending on who the alleged harasser is.
You must really be enjoying this.
Of course I'm not enjoying this, but I didn't appreciate the way he treated Michelle, or any of the women here for that matter.
Now, how do you know how he treated her? Or was that on public trial?
She was my friend, Tom. She told me what happened. He started asking her out almost a year ago, and she said no, but he wouldn't listen. He sent notes, letters, weekend invitations.
No, this is Rick.
Rick,
Oh, hey, Michelle.
I got your note.
Oh, great.
I'm not interested, you know that.
Hey, no problem, no problem. Go to the Bucks game on Wednesday night. Yeah, we'll watch the Bucks crush the Blazers.
No, Rick.
We'll have a great time.
No, Rick, I do not go out with people at work, and you know that.
No.
I told you.
No. You know, that's all I ever hear from you is no.
When she still said no, he started trying to make her look bad in front of other people here. The 1201 deal, I thought I had it, and then at the last minute somebody came in and...
Deborah, hello. Boy, the 1201 deal, funny you should bring it up. What a bummer, huh? Yeah. Anything else in the cooker there? Probably not. Deb, what about you?
He was calling her at home. It got to the point that she was scared of him. She was ready to quit her job just so she wouldn't have to see him anymore.
Okay, so maybe he did carry it a bit too far, but they didn't have to fire him.
The line in which behavior becomes harassment has been drawn and defined by the courts in 5 areas: quid pro quo, verbal harassment, nonverbal harassment, physical harassment, and hostile environment. Let's examine each area.
Paul, you joke around too much.
And I'm serious. No strings attached. Just stay here tonight. I want to show you my appreciation for all the great work you've done on this conference, and we can work on your personal evaluation.
Quid pro quo. Sexual favors for employment or advancement.
Quid pro quo harassment, it's a sort of fancy term, Latin term for this, for that. You are, or a person is offered some kind of sexual proposition in exchange for some change in their employment, or perhaps even just keeping their employment.
Oh, the joy of working with a housewife turned career woman. Did you case this? Why don't we try doing it right?
Verbal harassment. Demeaning language based on gender.
Verbal harassment encompasses a wide range of behaviors. It can be a situation where a coworker is making sexual comments about another coworker's body, where a coworker is telling sexual stories or jokes, where someone's talking about their sexual fantasies or asking another person about their sexual activities. Could be a situation where someone's telling sexual rumors about another employee. And finally, it can encompass behavior that's not sexual in nature but is gender-based. And an example is where a person is making gender-based derogatory comments to another coworker.
Statements or stories that demean people based upon gender are illegal. Sweeping generalizations based upon gender are unacceptable. Don't talk to coworkers about your dating, sexual, or marital life. Address your coworkers respectfully by their correct names only. Nonverbal harassment. Sexual staring, gestures, or printed materials.
Nonverbal harassment can be just as intimidating and upsetting as verbal harassment because it is also a violation of a person's privacy. Examples are situations where a coworker is staring or leering at someone in the work environment, where a coworker gives unwanted gifts, where someone's following another coworker around in the work environment, or also where you're writing letters or notes that are unwanted.
Speak to a coworker's eyes, not any other part of the body. Be respectful of the privacy of coworkers' workspaces. Don't hang around cubicles or offices. Sending sexual notes or other suggestive materials to coworkers is unacceptable and illegal.
How you doing, Jody? You seem a little tense out there. You gotta learn to relax a little. What? Man, you're touchy.
Physical harassment. A person being unwillingly touched.
Physical harassment is any kind of unwanted touching. Examples are brushing up against a coworker in a suggestive manner or touching yourself in a suggestive manner.
Assume that a handshake is an acceptable gesture. If unwelcome, any other touch may be sexual harassment and illegal.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi.
We have a meeting with Ed.
Okay.
Hey, Danielle. How come we never get to see you in your modeling costume when you're up here in the office? I mean, that is you in the poster there, isn't it? It looks just like you. Is that in?
Hostile environment. A sexually poisoned work environment.
Hostile working environment is generally an atmosphere that makes it difficult for an employee to work or to feel comfortable in the work environment. It covers a whole range of things, from displaying dirty pictures to using physical gestures, to giving cards that are of a sexual nature, making sexual comments, telling dirty jokes. There's a whole list of possibles that makes it an offensive working environment.
Sexual photographs, cartoons, or other illustrations have no place at work and are illegal. Keep sex and work completely separate.
In a hostile environment case, oftentimes people just think about, well, the comment I made or what was said was not sexual in nature or wasn't meant to be sexual. That need not matter. If the conduct is something that is offensive or unwelcome to the person and it's directed at them because of their gender or their sex, that may be enough to be sexual harassment, even though the comment is in no way sexual in and of itself.
Whether a picture or a gesture or a joke is offensive is not determined by the person that's making the comment. It's determined by the person that's hearing them. And what the courts have said to us is use a reasonable standard. Would a reasonable victim or a reasonable woman in this circumstance be offended by that comment or that gesture? A way to think about this is to look to see if your sister or your daughter or your mother would be offended by that comment and view them as being that reasonable woman in the circumstance.
It used to be in law that the courts presumed a reasonable man standard. And the courts have said that since sexual harassment primarily happens to women, that jurors or judges have to put themselves in the place of a woman and see the harassment through a woman's eyes as best as they can.
I still say the punishment far outweighs the problem. I know you guys keep saying it's illegal, but Rick's not a criminal. I mean, what's she gonna do? Haul him off to court?
She's not going to, but she could, Tom. Rick could be held personally liable and have to pay damages. He's lucky he just lost his job.
Smart companies are revisiting their sexual harassment policies because they realize that if they're not on record with a clear policy and a clear resolution process for complaints before something happens, they may well be in trouble later on.
I think we need to take out a line here.
Move it over. What do you think, Scott, huh? I'm just trying to imagine a golden tan on these beautiful shoulders.
Rick, I don't appreciate that.
Hey, I'm sorry, okay? Well, Michelle, I'll save it for the beach. Anyway.
Most policies are similar, and what they promise employees is freedom from retaliation for making the complaint and a prompt investigation. So generally what will happen is that first the investigator will talk to the person who's making the complaint.
How do you feel you've been harassed?
He's constantly touching me. He massages my back. He puts his arms around me. He calls me at home. He talks to people about me at work. Usually try to talk to the accused harasser second.
Did she tell you to stop?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like I say, it was all in fun, okay?
And then to any other witnesses who might have direct knowledge or supporting evidence related to the complaint.
I think the first thing that she showed me or told me about was a note that she had gotten from him that just he had left on her desk.
Companies are now taking the issue of sexual harassment much more seriously. In the past, when an employee went to a manager to complain about sexual harassment, he or she was likely to hear a response that was something like this. Oh, that's just the way Joe is. We've all put up with him. If you just ignore him, he'll let it go. Now people are realizing that that's not the correct answer. And what we should be saying to that employee is, this is an issue that we take very seriously. We want men and women in our company to be treated with respect, and we're going to work with you to resolve this issue.
Well, yeah, but like I said, it was all in fun. Hey, look, I didn't know it was a federal offense to touch your friend, okay?
If a company determines that one of its employees is guilty of sexual harassment, it needs to act promptly and reasonably to end that harassment and take whatever steps are necessary to make sure that happens.
Wow.
Rick, I'm afraid we have no choice at this point but to terminate him.
You're kidding, right?
We'll need your key card and your keys, please.
If it does not, the costs to the employer can be tremendous. Not only are there the costs associated with the lawsuit that may follow from that one particular instance, but it also can undermine the company's ability to send a message that sexual harassment will be dealt with and is taken seriously in the company.
Man, I can't believe this is happening. This has to be the biggest mistake that you two have ever made. You just fired your best salesman. I wish you the best of luck.
Employees are getting fired in quite substantial numbers of cases where it is determined that they have committed pretty severe acts of sexual harassment. The employer really has no option but to terminate them.
There are theories of law under which the individual harasser, not just the company, can be held liable for sexual harassment. And as a result, they would have to pay money for any judgment that's awarded to the plaintiff or the alleged victim. And that could expose them to tremendous amount of money and that they would have to satisfy out of their own pocket. They'd have to pay things like attorney's fees. They'd have to pay, and if they didn't have the money, they'd have to pay through some other assets. Perhaps might even have to liquidate some insurance policies, bank accounts, even could lose their home.
Recently, sexual harassment has cost the armed forces, the entertainment industry, federal agencies, universities, labor unions, and numerous other industries millions of dollars in court and settlement fees. Harassers are paying in lost jobs and personal liabilities. Companies are paying in monetary losses, bad publicity, and lost productivity.
Companies are cracking down because they have to. They're liable for damages if they'd known about the harassment or should have known about it and did nothing to stop it. In fact, they'd be liable if a customer had been harassing Michelle and did nothing to stop it. It's called third-party harassment.
How did you get to be such an expert?
Legal sent out a company-wide memo on sexual harassment after Rick was let go. It's got some pretty clear guidelines. They're also going to start some ongoing training.
Oh, good. Well, it makes sense, Tom. It's an area that's gone through incredible changes, even like in the last couple of years. People want to know what is or isn't acceptable.
The fear is that we are now moving to a cold and sterile work environment. The complaint is that that is going to be just as offensive as a work environment where we have sexual harassment. We are not sending the message that we need to work in cold, sterile work environments. Humor in the work environment is a perfectly acceptable mode of communication. The key is that it not be sexually offensive humor. So companies are now drafting anti-harassment policies to explain to their employees what constitutes sexually offensive behavior. And the message those companies want to send is that every employee, man or woman, has a right to work in the environment free from sexually offensive behavior.
Times are changing, and the consequences of sexual harassment are serious. If you're in doubt as to whether your behavior is harassment or not, here are some clear guidelines. Assume that none of your coworkers like sexual comments or gestures, and don't say them or do them at all. A company's sexual harassment liabilities extend to all off-site office functions, as well as in the office. Your coworkers' personal lives and homes are private. Don't intrude. Don't be romantically involved with another employee. Statements or stories that demean people based upon gender or sexual persuasion are illegal. Sweeping generalizations based upon gender or sexual persuasion are unacceptable. Don't talk to coworkers about your dating, sexual, or marital life. Compliment people only on the quality of their work, not their appearance. Address your coworkers respectfully by their correct names only. Sexual storytelling and joking are unacceptable in the workplace. Speak to a coworker's eyes, not any other area of the body. Be respectful of the privacy of coworkers' workspaces. Don't hang around cubicles or offices. Sending sexual notes or other suggestive materials to coworkers is unacceptable and illegal. Sexual photographs, cartoons, or other illustrations have no place at work and are illegal. Demeaning and degrading language and behavior based upon gender or sexual persuasion is illegal. Assume that a handshake is an acceptable gesture. If unwelcome, any other touch may be sexual harassment and illegal.
They're crazy if they think a bunch of guidelines are going to change the way men and women relate. I'm not going to change the way I act just because everybody's a little ultra-sensitive right now.
That doesn't surprise me, John, but what you need to realize is that you're in for a surprise if you don't change.
Can you believe her? I mean, you just can't change the way men and women relate by making up some rules and handing them out. I mean, that's just like trying to change human nature, right?
No, you're not right.
You agree with her?
Yeah, completely. And it's not just our opinion. It's a message coming from every level of management. It's very clear.
Right.
The message is that sexual harassment is illegal and won't be tolerated. And if you're smart, Tom, you'll wake up. It's not worth the risk.
The American Kennel Club presents Taking Care of Corey.
Hi, I'm Billy. And I'm Lisa. This is our home, and this is our dog, Corey. We were so happy when Mom and Dad brought Corey into our lives, but we didn't realize just how much care goes into owning a dog. There are a lot of things you have to do in order to make sure your dog is as happy as he makes you. Right, Corey?
One of the first things you have to do is make sure you always feed your dog, and that you always have a fresh supply of water available, in case your dog gets thirsty. Your dog can't go to the refrigerator anytime like we can.
We make sure to give Corey nutritious food so he stays strong and healthy.
There is more to being a responsible dog owner than just feeding your dog. You have to take your dog out for walks and exercise.
And it's really important to remember that when you do take your dog for a walk, you always keep him on a leash. Never let him wander off by himself.
We love Corey, and we would never want anything to happen to him. We even have a fenced-in yard, because we would never let Corey loose around the neighborhood.
That way, not only are we taking care of Corey's safety, but we're also being good neighbors.
Part of being a responsible dog owner and taking care of any pet is to make sure your pet stays healthy. That means sometimes you have to visit the vet for a checkup.
From my examination, I can tell that Corey is a very healthy dog. The two of you are doing a very good job taking care of Corey.
I'm very proud of Billy and Lisa. They've taken their responsibilities very seriously.
Well, part of keeping Corey healthy is to give him his annual shots.
One other thing that we learned about taking care of Corey is that he needs to have identification. It may just look like a pretty necklace, but it's not fun and games. In case Corey ever gets out of the house by accident and gets lost, anyone who reads this tag on his collar would know how to get in touch with us and return Corey to us. It is important that you have identification on your dog.
Lisa, be sure and get all that makeup off your face. When you're done, it's Corey's turn.
Everybody needs to bathe, including Corey, to keep his coat clean and shiny.
Part of being a responsible dog owner is providing proper training for your dog. We know a couple of people who think their dogs have bad manners. We know that the only reason their dogs are not well behaved is because they were never taught to behave any other way.
We take Corey to obedience school. At obedience school, we learn how to teach Corey to sit, stay, come, heel, and lie down on command. These are the 5 basic commands that every dog should know.
Obedience school not only teaches Corey good manners, but it's also a lot of fun for me and Lisa, too.
Training is essential for every dog.
That's right, Lisa. And every dog has the ability to learn as long as the dog has patient and responsible owners, like you and Billy.
This class is the advanced class. These dogs have been trained to jump over things. One day, Corey will be able to do that too. Our teacher told us that we're very good pupils, and so is Corey. Our whole family made a commitment to care for and train Corey, and to be responsible dog owners.
But most importantly, we give Corey lots of love. Our dog is a happy dog, a healthy dog for sure. To make our dog a happy dog, we take good care of him. I give him food, fresh water, lots of love and care. That's what makes a happy dog a happy, healthy dog. Our dog is a happy dog, a healthy dog for sure. To make our dog a happy dog, we take good care of him. We practice training every day. A well-trained dog is the only way to be a model neighbor in your community. Responsible dog owner, responsible dog owner.
I love my dog.
My dog loves me, that's our responsibility. Our dog is a happy dog, To make our dog a happy dog, we take good care of him.